Hey all, just a quick editor's note at the beginning of this one. You won't notice anything if you're on podcast, but if you're watching the YouTube video, you'll see that GT's lips aren't moving when he's talking and are moving when he's quiet. Some kind of a glitch in the fancy dancy new video program we're using this year. I've tried to reach out and figure out how to fix it, and there won't be time to get this out on time. So I apologize for that. I apologize, GT. It's amusing. But hopefully you'll enjoy it anyway. And here we go.
Hey kids, it's Old Man shouting at clouds, and now with others too. Chatting about the CFL is what they're going to do. Some have no contacts and others have no clues. Everyone will tell us all their quirky football views. Hear what Old Man and others know. It's the CFL Outsiders show.
Hey GT. What are we going to do this week?
Same thing we do every week, old man. Take over the CFL.
Hey kids, welcome back to another episode of the CFL Outsiders. I remain as always your 100% unbiased, completely impartial, and still completely amazed co-host, Old Man Shouting at Clouds. And the gang's all here again this week, which is nice. So joining me is, of course, GT.
Hey.
And MJ.
Hey, how's it going? I entered the Old Dutch kick to win, so I'll be out on the field practicing if you need me.
Oh, good. You'll be our on-field reporter when you win it. So ask me why I'm still amazed. I bet you can guess.
Go ahead. Why are you still amazed? I will fall for it. Why are you still amazed?
It's obvious. Robert Carter Jr., that interception. Yes. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, I was watching that, and one of the things that came to mind is in the original Superman comic, he couldn't fly. He just could jump really high.
Right.
And I think Robert Carter's maybe got a claim to that, I got to say.
Yeah, I think we're all saying the same thing, and everybody that's seen it since, either live or rewatched it or just saw it on somebody else's feed or whatever the case may be, it's outstanding. It was just unbelievable. In fact, when it was so fast. That's one thing that I haven't seen anybody talk about. It was so fast that in the live on television at first, I didn't even see it happen. It was incredible until they slowed it down and showed it. I was like, oh my goodness, that is just unbelievable. And the other, as you said, the height of that jump, like O'Leary Orange is like 6 to 7 inches, got to be taller than him, and he just went way over top of him. Like, that was incredible. That was absolutely unbelievable.
That was it. Had to be at least a 36-inch vertical. It's just absolutely amazing. I've heard a lot of people comparing it to the S.J. Green catch in the 2010 opener against the Riders, that one at the back of the end zone, and I think it might be up there. It's certainly there.
Even Bo Levi was giving him some props.
Oh, he should, because there was nothing Bo could have done to throw that any better.
No, that ball was perfectly placed. It was well, like the receiver was there. It was perfectly placed. Everything was there, and he just came out of nowhere to take that away. I don't think anybody thought that was going to happen.
Oh, yeah, that should be highlight reels all over the place.
Absolutely.
And I got it. Yeah, I got to say, it's interesting with football. You never know what level these things are going to happen with. That there are three great catches I can remember from football. There was that one, there was the S.J. Green one, and then there was one from a 15-year-old when I was coaching junior varsity. This kid was maybe like 5'3", and we were playing him at receiver because it's the only place we could get, but he did have good hands. He was in the end zone on a route and started to turn to catch where the ball was, tripped and fell backwards, and as he fell backwards about maybe 6 inches off the ground, threw his arm out like that, and somehow pulled the thing in. So you never know when you're going to get... I was awestruck by that a kid that age would do that. We'll get into the news, and the first thing I've got to talk about is, I think probably everybody's heard it, but I think we should talk about it. The fact the Argos have finally added Chad Kelly to the 6-game list. 8 games into the season with him not playing. There's a lot to say, but a lot not to say. Any thoughts on it from either of you?
Go ahead, MJ. I'll finish up. I got a couple of quick things or not, so I'll just let you go first.
Okay, well, so sad. I was snooping around on his Instagram, and he hasn't posted anything recently, which is kind of non-Chad-like. But the last thing he really posted was him working out in Buffalo with his personal trainer and showing a video of what he was doing. So I'm not quite sure. And then the other issue is like, why was he not on the 6-game already? This is a huge mismanagement of salary caps. That doesn't seem like something that they would do in Toronto. So I don't know. They were asking, TSN rudely asked Nick Arbuckle how he was handling it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, come on, give him a break.
What are you going to say?
What's he going to say? What's Nick going to say? And that was before they put him on the 6-game. It was after they had just, and they're like, Nick, how do you feel about Chad? And I'm like, oh, come on, TSN. I know you have to ask, but so I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's, I've heard a lot of talk about it. I also on Turnout, Sheldon mentioned he's heard now that apparently there's some family issues, that his sister has a baby that's not well. And so that might be part of it. But I don't know if that's it or if it's just, I don't believe anything I'm hearing out of Toronto right now.
I hear two things. Yeah. One, and neither of them have I actually heard. Yes. But the first thing is that they haven't put him on the 6th game because both of the football ops guys, being Pinball and Dinwoody, were desperately hoping he was going to be ready and was going to come back, and he just kept not being ready. So they were not saying they did not do anything wrong in football ops. They did what they wanted to do. They wanted to have him on the 1 game so when he was ready, they could bring him back as quickly as possible, because that's the guy they know that can win them more games, or at least they feel that way. Okay, so I don't blame anything on the football ops side. They've just tried and tried and tried. And finally, the reason I think that they just finally put him on now is simply some bean counter at Rogers, who now owns the team flat out, said, we can save $350,000 here or $300,000 by sticking him on the 6th game. So why are we not? And Rogers is so tight with money and that's not because of any other reason than they're just cheap. I don't believe that that's where it finally came down. They finally just overruled the football guys and said, no, we're going to save some money. Done. And the other reason I say that is it's interesting that this is the first year that Rogers has owned the team outright. It's the first year that season ticket holders don't get anything for swag for being season ticket holders. In the 4 years I've been a season ticket holder, this stretch, the last 4 years, I've been season ticket holder on and off, but for the last 4 years, every year they have given season ticket holders a very nice piece of swag and your choice of which one you wanted. So different things and so on. And that was when MLSE was, owned by Bell, owned by Larry, Tannenbaum, et cetera, et cetera. All of a sudden, Rogers owns it. Nothing. Not a word on anything for the ticket holders. And again, I think it's just them being cheap. To be blunt, that's what it is. It's Rogers trying to save a dime. And dimes don't matter to them, but dimes matter to every one of those corporations.
GT, Vladdy's salary is not going to pay for itself.
Yeah, exactly.
You there's a lot of Blue Jay payroll now that they have to deal with. And they don't compartmentalize that. And I don't think it has anything to do with Vladdy. And I understand you're being facetious, but it's got nothing to do with one versus the other. It's just if they can save a dime anywhere. And if Vladdy could do the same thing, if they had to do it in baseball, they do the exact same thing. It's just them saving because they have a bunch of penny pushers and penny pinchers that they get paid to do that kind of stuff. And that's my gut feel. And that's what it is. They just finally overrode the football guys and said, he's not coming back, put him on the 6th game. And the Buffalo thing is something that's been going on for the whole thing. They've been fine with it. They've been on it. It's been talked about for months that he's doing rehab with his own person in Buffalo and then coming up and doing rehab in Toronto at the same time. So that hasn't been an issue. That's not part of it, I don't believe. I just think it's money, and I think it's Rogers.
Here's what I say. I don't know what I think, but one thing I try and do when I don't know about stuff is apply the principle of charity. What's the sort of the best explanation? And it could very well be corporate. But it's also, if they are starting to think he may not be back, and frankly, I'm wondering about it. He may not be back this year at all. That $300,000 or whatever it actually turns out to be may get you some pretty good cuts or pretty good players when the NFL makes it cuts. And may save you going over the salary cap and that. So
yeah, and I thought that as well. And the proof will be in the pudding on my comment if they use the money. If they use the money, if they use the money, then I'm wrong. If they don't use the money, then I'm sorry. There's something going on there. And you're right. Exactly. He may not well be back, and it might be the right decision. I'm just saying this is why I believe they're doing it now, is because they finally just got overridden.
Yeah. Oh, wait, but that's not saving Rogers any real money, because he still gets paid on the 6-game list.
No, he doesn't. As long as you're on the 6-game list, on the 1-game list, you get paid. But on the 6-game list, if you're off for all 6 games, as long as you're off for all 6 games, you get to deduct that from your salary cap. So
from the salary cap, but in actual dollars, Kelly is still making money that whole 6 games. So Rogers isn't saving a penny. It's got to be a football decision. They're still paying him. Anyway, that's my thought on it. We've gone into this pretty much in depth. I've been calling it the Kelly Karma Tour, and I've had some people say, you should never be celebrating an injury. And I'm not. But frankly, he shouldn't have been playing in the league last year. So sometimes when we get it wrong, karma has to step in. Oh, okay. Oh, I just realized, because I mentioned Sheldon there, that I didn't put my fantasy recap in. So I'll throw that out real quick. I clawed my way back up to 400 by beating Sheldon. Hey. And I'll talk about that more during a game later in the week. I think I beat him by about 10 points. So I'm at 4-4. And I believe I've got, I think it's the Freep from the Turf District, who I don't know. So that'll be next week. I ended up just short of 100 points. I think 98.5 or something.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, and I jumped in on the side, as I talked about, for the first time, and it came in at like 89. So
that's not a bad start at all.
Yeah, well, I made some bad decisions, but I'm learning.
We all do. We all do. There are players that make so much sense when you check that box and then you see the game. How can they not play them or use them at least? We'll move on to another, not segment, but we were saying maybe we should make this a segment. Who's Luke fighting with this week? And it's Derek Dennis. Now, I'm going to say before I hand this over to MJ, who's going to talk to us about it, I think, personally, he's a troll. Luke, I'm saying he's a troll. He's admitted that he's a troll going for clicks. And what's the first rule of the internet these days?
Don't
feed the trolls. So I almost would rather ignore him. But then there's the quandary that we're part of what give people their news. So let's talk about it. Go ahead, MJ.
Yeah, there's an argument for ignoring a bully, but then there's an argument for punching a bully in the face.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're going to talk about Luke Wilson. This one, it's just so strange that somebody employed by TSN, who clearly has very little respect for CFL football, is now working on the CFL desk and on the sideline and spending his free time, or maybe it's paid TSN time, but spending some time on Twitter bad-mouthing the CFL, bad-mouthing cities where CFL teams are, and bad-mouthing CFL players. This week, he chose to go after Derek Dennis, who, as we all know, is one of a top-tier talent lineman in the CFL. I wrote down his accolades just because you need to hear them. He is a 2018 Grey Cup champion. He is a 2-time CFL All-Star. He is a 4-time CFL West Division All-Star, and he is a 1-time CFL Most Outstanding O-Lineman. He has played for the Stamps, the Riders, the Elks. He's played in the NFL for the Dolphins, Patriots, Bears, and Panthers, and he's played in the AFL, and he's played in the XFL. He's been around. He's doing his thing. I wrote down what...
May I add one thing, MJ? You missed, and he's called the Bone Crusher.
He's called the Bone Crusher. It's coming. I promise.
Oh, sorry. Let me step back out of the way here.
That's good. I'm glad people know about him. It helps. So I wrote down this Twitter exchange because I wanted to make sure I was saying things properly and not taking things out of context. So Derek said, you've actually never practiced or played in the CFL, so how would you know? You don't know me or where I've been or what I do. Luke wrote back, who's assuming your talent level? Respectively, you've never actually prepped for a pro game. In camp, we barely touched on teams in preseason. In the CFL, you practice/meet 4.5 hours a day and have minimal coaches. Put down the inferiority complex for the love of God. It's not even the same stratosphere. My Wednesday prep time would be close to the total hours per week per the CFL CBA. Then another person, Riders fan, who is also on Blue Sky, who I talked to, she said, I read your missive as implying the CFL was not a pro league. The prep might be different, but both teams are professional leagues. Luke wrote back, after watching last night, I think he means the Winnipeg-Toronto game. After watching last night, I'm beginning to question that, to be honest. Product is lacking in the CFL, seems more amateurish these days. Then the Bone Crusher on his Instagram. I was like, let me hop over to Instagram now. And on his stories, he said, he posted a story of him, a video of him when he was playing for the Stamps. And he's like, this is how I got my name, Bone Crusher. And then he posted a picture of himself playing in the NFL. We're making players mad. You're insulting players and you're making them mad. This is my opinion. If you are getting paid to play, you're a pro.
Yep.
I watch CBL basketball. I am well aware it is not the Toronto Raptors. I watch my local baseball team. I'm well aware that it is not MLB baseball. I am well aware that the CFL is not NFL. NFL attracts about, I think I looked at the average today, it was about almost 70,000 people a game. When I was looking to buy tickets to go to an NFL game, there was really no tickets under $200 US. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of money. A lot of money. CFL cannot compete with that. And I don't think we need to. I love CFL football. I'm on a podcast about CFL football. I like that it's quirky. I like that it's weird. Also, I just want to, this goes into rebuttal. You guys were talking about it last week, and I didn't say anything at the time because we were talking about how you should want your CFL player to go to the NFL, and it's a feeder league, and I hate it. I'm wearing my son's shirt. It's a Philpott shirt. We can talk about why later, but I'm wearing this shirt. It was expensive. Not a lot of people have a lot of money to be buying a lot of gear. Why would I want to buy a shirt for somebody who's gone the next year? I want to buy a shirt for somebody who plays 12 seasons for my team, like Milt. I want to buy a shirt, a jersey of somebody like Trey Ford or Bo Levi Mitchell. These people are not amateurish. They are professionals. So yes, we can try and ignore Luke Wilson, but I think this is a broader issue of us trying to be something that we're not. And I think we should just embrace who we are and have some fun with it. And he can go pound sand.
Okay, I'll jump in quick and then let GT come in because I bet he's got stuff to say too. And the only real comment I have is along the same thing about ignoring him. Calling CFL football amateurish shows you don't understand the game at all. And as well, there's 4 games a week. He's complained about that in the past, that it's not enough or whatever. But he picks one game every week and goes after something in it. If you wanted to do that down in the NFL, they've got 16 games, but you could probably pick any 4 of them and pick out one thing you want to attack as this is a big problem in the NFL when it's something that happened in one game. I've got no more time for Luke. He's an annoyance. I hope TSN, a lot of people write into TSN and say, get rid of him. Anyway, what do you think, GT?
Well, I think he is running his course very quickly. I like any of these abrasive shock jocks or whatever you want to be, clickbaiters, whatever you want to be, controversial figures. They wear on you very quickly, and they're flame out. And I think he's going to flame out. If he hasn't already, he's there very shortly. Because, as you said, Derek Dennis is an all-star player that has also been one of the most behind-the-scenes guy in the background, helping other players and standing up to the league and standing up for the players and standing up for the league as well in many, many ways, and has been very close to being this unofficial spokesman for the CFLPA, where the CFLPA can't say something, so Derek does, type of thing. I've heard lots of interviews with him. He knows his stuff. He is not some fly-by-night, third-rate kind of player by any means, so you cannot go after him. I didn't know who started this. It sounded from by what MJ said that it was actually Derek that may have started the conversation back and forth. But if you're going to go back at someone like Luke did, then he needs to have his facts straight, and obviously he didn't. So then that blows out his credibility even further. And one of the things that I was thinking when he was saying to Bone Crusher that you've never played in the NFL. Well, one of the things that Luke's never done is played in the CFL. So he can't use the comparison if you've never played. He keeps saying things that, oh, this isn't good enough. This isn't good enough. But until you've walked a mile in my shoes, you don't know what the differences are. And he can stand there and say, well, I grew up playing Canadian football. Yeah, when you were 12 and when you were 14, then you went to American schools and you went to the American college, you went to America. You've never played professional football in Canada. You have no idea what it's like other than standing and criticizing. So that's like us sitting there and saying all the receivers in the NFL are horrible because they can't get open fast enough and they so on. Well, no, you can't say that unless you've played there. You cannot, so just because this league is perceived as being lesser doesn't mean you can automatically say it's not good unless you've been there, and then you can criticize it properly. And that's what I'm getting really tired of. And I think on paper plates, that was Milt's whole argument with him at the beginning was you haven't been there. And Milt said, you got to understand the CFL is not the NFL. It's just not going to be. And it's different. It doesn't mean that it's worse. It just means that it's different. And he can't seem to get his head wrapped around the fact that it's just different. It's not the same. That's all there is to it. Get over it. Appreciate it for what it is.
Petition to have Bone Crusher on the sidelines instead of Luke Wilson.
He very much wanted to be on the panel. He wanted to take Schultze's place as the O-line guy on the panel, and he would have made a terrific analyst on the panel when he retired, which he should have never had to retire to begin with. But,
yeah. Also hilarious. Hilarious that Luke is okay with taking TSN's money and taking money to talk about an amateur league. Oh. Like, why? If you think it's not a pro league, why are you here? Why are you wasting your time, Luke? Just like go on I don't see any NFL networks offering him jobs.
Exactly. In the Giorgio-verse, which unfortunately the real world doesn't work by these rules, but in the Giorgio-verse, Bone Crusher and Luke, we'd throw them in a cage match and let them sort it out. Alrighty. Now, GT, you were going to tell us about, we found out the Combine's going to be in Edmonton next week, or next year.
The spring, they announced that the National Combine is moving to Edmonton next year. And it was there, I think, just 2 years ago. So it's almost like a rotation between Regina and Edmonton now. And maybe it's facilities. I'm not sure what the reasoning why they're just continuing to do it out west. I don't think it's a bad thing. That both of the reviews of the combines that have been held in those two cities have been terrific. But I would like it to move around a little bit more. I'd like to get to one. And I can't do that when they're that far away. So I wish they would move it back into one of the eastern cities at some point in time and just move it around more. In the off season, we need things to generate excitement everywhere, not just in the West, not just in one city. I think we need to move. That's an event and you need to move it around to take advantage of it. And it would be terrific if they ever got back to the the CFL week that they did a few years ago that culminated in the combine. And we could get all-star game of some sort, whether it be a flag football all-star game or whether it just be something else, but somehow tie a whole bunch of things together again and move that around as an event in March, which they tried to do and then kind of went away from, unfortunately. But anyways, it's good news that it's back in Edmonton. I'm looking forward to the combine.
I've heard them say that the one in Regina last year was nice to be there, but they really didn't do anything to get the fans to come out. You were allowed to if you wanted, but you could just stand in the viewing area. There was nothing to sort of make it enticing, I guess. And I think this is a good time for us all to start hammering the CFL with emails or whatever, asking them to promote it more. We've talked before, but you don't have to go high cost. You could do it low cost, bring in a couple of social influencers barely tied to football, but get them to work along with it. I think it could be absolutely fantastic. And if there's ever a time to do it, I think it's now, because the thing that I always hear people say is, well, no one's interested in the CFL Combine because you're not going to know who those players are for 2 or 3 years. And my counter to that is Alfred, well, he got hurt, but we certainly know who he is, and I hope he's back soon. Verisuk, making big news in Hamilton. Keelan White, number 3 out in Ottawa. Not so much news, but playing very nicely. And then Fortin, I think it's pronounced, for Calgary, the center now. He's come up as a first-year player and getting big accolades. So these are rookies being noticed, and the CFL should understand they can use that to entice people to pay attention to the combine. These are the guys you could have seen last year. Come out and see this now. Make it more exciting for the younger folks. Put it with our high-paced kind of thing. And yeah, anyway, that's my thought.
I volunteer as tribute. I will go to the combine and report live for us.
Okay. We'll have to hold a special episode for the combine. We'll be on much broader schedules during the off season. All righty. Anything else on that? No. Well, the next thing I wanted to talk about, and this kind of ties back to the whole Luke Wilson thing. It might have been what started, in fact, the Derek Dennis's reply to Luke was the complaints that have happened about offensive linemen in the CFL. And from what I understand, I'm not on Twitter or Instagram, so I don't see what Luke is putting out there. But from what I understand, this is what started it. He was complaining about the fact they got 8 sacks against the Elk and saying that it's all because there's terrible linemen, and attacking the Canadian linemen again, saying, we're hiding Canadians in the O-line and they're just not good enough to play against the Americans coming up on it. And that is just such an old, trite view of things. I disagreed with it, but I didn't have any facts other than I noticed before the week they came out with the 5 interesting stats the CFL did, and one was that sacks were down this year, were down from usual. So obviously the O-lines are doing something, and we've got some good running backs. And then I'm plagiarizing a bit here from the folks over on 3 Down Nation. I think it was JC was saying he did look at the stats and he found out 2 things with it. Up until, we'll see where it changes after the 8 sacks this weekend, but up until this weekend, we had the lowest average number of sacks per game that they've had since they started recording sacks in the 70s. So it's now not a downfall. And then the other side of it was he looked back over the last 2 or 3 years since we've had the Professional Football Focus doing their stats and grading out, and he found that when you average it all out, the Canadian linemen are averaging a little bit above the American ones. So please, enough of this. We have weak Canadians on the line and it's no good. Just understand the fact some teams have very good defensive lines. Sometimes they include Canadians, sometimes they don't. But I think it's just ridiculous to assume that the whole league has a problem with linemen because there's one game with a lot of sacks in it. And secondly, I hate the fact it just totally disrespects the talent on the defense. If you had real O-lines in there, you wouldn't be getting any sacks. Thoughts, comments?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. I mean, I think it's ludicrous. I mean, I wanted to quote Luke Wilson during that game. This game is hot garbage. That game was a bad game. The only good thing about that game was Saskatchewan's defensive line, and they were awesome. But they were helped by the fact that Edmonton refused to run the ball. And so they had to do nothing but go after the quarterback. They were helped by the fact that Cody Fajardo is known for taking sacks rather than throwing the ball, giving the ball away. They're helped by the fact that Cody Fajardo isn't exactly, even though he likes to think he's mobile, he's not. And Edmonton had a horrible game, and they're a pretty horrible team. So you put all that together, you got a horrible offensive, line game. But that's one game. He take it even in the context of the week, and there wasn't that issue, let alone in the context of the year or the context of the league overall in the last 15 or 20 years. So to take one game and then to make it sound like there's a huge issue. No, there's going to be games like that, especially on bad teams.
Yes, and we'll talk more about that game a little later as we get into the recaps on it, but I agree with you, and it's just such a ridiculous thing. I mean, it's almost predictable at this point. Watch, if some team next week has a defense that's just absolutely ball hawking and comes up with 4 or 5 DBs, Luke's going to say, oh, the receivers in the CFL are no damn good at all. Look at that. Yeah. They can't get in position and knock down an interception when it's there. They don't play defense. They're not in the right place. I've had enough.
My mom would tell you that you have to establish the run to keep the defense honest. I think she should be the offensive coordinator for the Elks. And yes, Luke is a wet blanket. Like, oh my God, like what a wet blanket. Can we just have someone fun on the sideline, please?
I agree. Yeah. Let's go on to something that's, still not good news, but
no, it's not.
Your thoughts, GT, about the Amos discipline after his hit on Brown, the ugly hit.
Unfortunately, there's no surprise. He should have been ejected for a game, suspended for a game. Yes, they would have appealed it and so on, but he should have at least got the suspension and the fine, and they didn't. And I don't know why, but if they're going to continue that to happen, that's going to continue to happen. It's as simple as that.
What are the CBA guidelines for this? Is it a suspension?
I would think so, because I've seen people suspended for unnecessary roughness and playing beyond what they call the line before. So it's got to be at the commissioner's discretion.
So that's what I was thinking. This is the new commissioner's discretion, and the message is play away, hit away.
Yeah.
You're not in trouble. Go for it.
Yeah.
Bad message. Yeah. Bad messaging.
No, I agree completely. It's just the league baffles me. We'll talk about another roughing call, which I agree was roughing, but certainly nobody got hurt on it. And the fact that something like that, the total difference in between the two of them was Amos is a little lighter in the pocketbook, which I'm sure nobody wants to be, and 10 yards of field position. It's just, to me, it's ridiculous. Yeah. Because didn't they get 25 on Amos's hit, and the normal one is 15?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's correct.
10 extra yards. What big deal.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, I think we're all in agreement
that I was being harsh. Like, they're like, oh, well, if it was somebody else other than Ticats, I'm like, I don't care whose team it is. This is my team. I think he should be suspended.
Because, it's the only thing that stops it is actually real penalties.
Yeah.
And it, maybe it was a little better this week, but we'll see. And then the one other, or actually I've got three more things here. Man, we got a lot to talk about. But the next thing we were going to cover, MJ was going to talk to us about, surprise, surprise. MBT decided he had something to say.
One of my preseason hot takes was that McLeod bet that Thompson would say something so egregious that he would get suspended by the league. I feel like he's well on his way. I didn't see the interview because I went to bed. It was very late for me personally. In his post-game interview, he said, "You've got to stay true to your colors, TSN panel. Don't you say anything good about me. Stay true. Don't say anything good about me, all right?" Oh, this guy. Is this the same guy? I think he's also said that he was the best. When he plays well, he's the best CFL quarterback. Is that, yes, he said that as well?
I don't recall that, but it could be.
I feel like he said that in an interview. No, guys, I had to live through this last year in Edmonton.
I think they're different, though. And I think last year's outbursts in Edmonton were goofy. and like direct it at the league, and those will get you suspended or fined, as they should have last year, as they did. And you're right. If he keeps speaking off like that, he's in trouble. This, as I said, I think I sent back to you, MJ. I don't see this as any different than Henry Burris going at the TSN panel a few years ago and saying, "I've saved another franchise." I don't see this any different than Cody Fajardo standing in the Montreal locker room saying, "Fuck them, watch," you know?
Yeah.
You can bleep that if you have to. I don't think this is any different than anything other than that. The TSN panel had rightfully said after 2 stinkers, they weren't afraid of him, and he'd been playing pretty badly. And he took it to heart, and then when the game was over, he went after them. I think it's great, personally. I think it's great. He didn't say anything against the league. He just said to, watch me. Same thing that Cody said, same thing that Henry said.
I'm sort of halfway in between on this stuff. I think the stuff last year in Edmonton, I honestly believe he was doing that more to distract from what was happening with the team and trying to take the focus away from how bad the team was. This year, I don't know. This year, it felt a little petty to me. I didn't mind. Now, I mind you, I didn't see the interview. I've just read the quotes, and there could be a lot in the tone that he used. You say something and it's in a playful tone or in a very serious one, really alters what's there. So I have to admit that.
Was Henry in a playful tone on that interview a few years ago when he told off the panel? When Burris told off the panel? That wasn't playful. And then 3 weeks, and then he was back on the panel. So come on, and the panel went back at MBT after that.
They did.
So it was a back and forth. It just wasn't. It was more of it was still a rant. It was still a argument. By no means was it cordial, but it was still. They both. People made their point, basically, is how I saw it. And I thought it was fun. I didn't have a problem with it.
I guess my difference between Burris and MBT is that Burris is a good vibes guy and MBT is a bad vibes guy. My quick little MBT story from the Elks last year is that the Elks did a flag football camp, and all the players, like a bunch of the players came, and it was 3 nights. And the first night he was there. The second 2 other nights he left halfway through and left the linesman do the quarterback station on his own for 2 nights. And people were not happy, including me, including my child. And there was lots of, like, Eugene Lewis was there, Gittins was there, Purefoy was there, and McLeod Bethel Thompson he was just such a jerk last year in that town. And he left, and we were all happy to see him go. And so when he comes out and does stuff like this, I'm like, same old McLeod Bethel Thompson. It's just gonna bad vibes all around.
Yeah. And if he stinks to join out in the next game, they'll all be able to point at him and say, "Yeah, no, there you go. That's the real you." But if he has another, great game, then he can stand there and say, "No, see." But we'll see how it goes. I think it's a one-off. You got to take it as a one-off.
We'll take option A on that he really stinks up the house next week. But I really don't know, because same as most of them, you get very little chance to really see who they are as people. And I've seen him do stuff that seems really stupid. I've seen him do stuff that's good. And I've heard people that know him say he's basically a little too self-centered in that. And I've heard people that know him say he's probably the best thing for the league, that he's always promoting it and always pushing it. So I don't know, but I wasn't bothered by it. Just, it seemed to me like you had just come out of a game that everyone was expecting you to lose. The circumstances ended up, you got a win out of it. There could have been a lot of positive stuff to talk about rather than having to shoot at the panel. But if that's how he's motivating himself for next week, more power to him.
I guess I just feel he didn't earn the right to say that yet. You won 1 game. Talk to us when you've moved along a little bit.
That's valid.
And and moving on from there, I almost forgot to put this one in, and it's important. That game, Montreal at Calgary, had the first all-female sideline crew in CFL history, which I think is amazing. And I thought the sideline crew was basically the lines people, or the the chain people. But then they showed the shot of them, and I had to go looking. So there is actually 9 people on the sideline crew. There's a downs box operator, yardstick operators, and I think there's 3 of those, timekeeper, communication coordinator, countdown operator, scorer, and statistician. So it's a big crew. I don't know if reading out the names would have helped, but everywhere I looked, I tried finding out the names of them, and it was all just pictures. So I couldn't get that. But I think that is absolutely fantastic. Back when I was coaching in the minor ball, the goddess used to come to the games with me, and she would get on the chain crew because she said it was the best place to watch the games from. So when we were talking about this, and I was saying this week that nice to see in a professional league, there's an all-women crew, and she came right back. I'm a professional. I got paid, which I never know. Oh yeah, $30 a game when I did that.
Nice.
Am I overblowing this? I think it's important.
The Stamps posted this and made a big deal about it, and then the CFL posted the Stamps post about it. So the Stamps were actually making a bigger deal about it than the actual CFL was. And then one of Alberta's favorite politicians, Janice Irwin, posted it up onto her stories, and that got a lot of traction as well.
And TSN did a pretty good job of announcing it and making sure that it was done, and it did do the full group together and had all their names and listed all their different positions and so on. So I think they did a pretty decent job. And the best thing about it, you didn't hear about them later on. Right? They did their job. That's like offensive linemen. The best thing is you never hear their name. That's the best thing about officials. So, yeah, it was great. There was no issues. There was no problems, and there shouldn't have been because they are professionals.
Next step I'm waiting for is all-female officiating crew on field.
Yep.
We're starting to get some good ones. I know. You want to join him.
To CFL officiating school.
Yay.
I feel like I might get run
All right.
over. Too small.
All right. And
I've got a point about that later on.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll talk. Let us know when we get there, because we're basically almost at the recap. But I think something that we'll be talking about in the first game a lot that's still worth mentioning is the fact that VA got injured and is now listed questionable for this week. So I thought, GT,
Slide.
Yeah, he wasn't going to get that first down anyway, so I don't know why he didn't slide. He was too far away. Anyways, the last I read was, and I saw the interview with Dickinson today, is that, they're not sure. They're waiting to find out. He's practicing, but they're waiting for clearance is what it sounds like. And PJ Walker was interviewed, and he's basically prepping as if he's starting. So, it's questionable on, whether he'll be allowed to play this week or not. Vernon Adams says it wasn't that bad and he could have gone back in, but he did admit he was wobbly. So
that shot of him coming out of the tent, the first time that they showed the shot and he came out, and the way his eyes were and everything. I dealt with concussions, having been coaching football, and I've seen them, and that one, I won't say it's serious, you don't know, but he was very obviously concussed, and. Of course, he's going to feel like he should be in there, but I really hope that they don't rush anything back. I don't know if the protocol calls for a truly independent examiner to pass him or not. I hope so, because he's too good to start having concussion problems. We've lost back in the days when these hits were much more encouraged. I mean, that wasn't an illegal hit. That was on VA not sliding, but we've lost, who we lost out of the game because of a concussion. We lost Dickinson out of the game. We lost Matty Dunnigan out of the game. I have to think who else, so
Buck Pierce.
Give him the time to recover.
Yeah.
And what do you, again, we could cover this a bit in the, when we get to the looking ahead, but what do you think, GT? Does this make it a competitive game maybe now in Calgary if it's PJ Walker in there, or do you think the defense still is good enough to not have them worried?
Oh, I think it's a very competitive game all of a sudden. I think it's a very competitive game. Because what I haven't read anything about PJ Walker taking strictly first team reps. So how much prep is he still getting? I just read that VA took reps at the first day and then the second day. So even if he's only had 2 days, that's not going to be enough. They're going to be able to throw the ball, but we'll see how successful they're going to be. And they'll run the ball a lot, but Ottawa will be looking for that, right? And so we'll talk about it when we get there. But I think it's going to be a very competitive game all of a sudden.
Okay, so that sort of wraps up the start of the news. And we've gone almost an hour, but I think we have a chunk to cut out of that. So let's go on to the actual games themselves. And it opened on that Thursday night with Montreal going into Calgary and walking out with a 23-21 win. And I believe, GT, you're probably the best to take the lead on this one.
Penalties, 135 yards. Probably more penalties than they took in the last 3 games combined in one game. That's what hurt them. It didn't hurt them like it hurt Edmonton for different reasons, but it definitely hurt them. And it was so uncharacteristic of how the team's been over the course of this year so far. Other than that, juggling your defensive backfield and juggling everything else, and you still lose by 2 points on a 57-yard field goal with a minute left. I'm not disappointed by the outcome. I'm not surprised by the outcome given the circumstances. And I'm most disappointed by the amount of penalties they took just overall. I just think that was what swung the game more than anything else, was those penalties that took away field position when you're 135 yards. That's too much, just too much. I mean, we can go play by play, but that's how I felt about the game.
I was just giving MJ a minute to see if she wanted to jump in. So I'm ready if she doesn't.
Yeah, so I just, first
something?
of all, before I say anything about the game, I am wearing this Montreal jersey because my kid said if the Montreal Alouettes won, could I wear it? And I was like, of course, because it won't happen. I'm wearing the jersey. I think the key to this game for me is, there's penalties. Also, 3 big injuries for Calgary. Green on defense, Moose, and VA. And when those 3 guys are out, it's a completely different team.
Yes. And one of the other things was a complete raw rookie right tackle inserted at the last minute when Demery got injured in warm-up. Yeah. So you actually had 4.
I didn't realize that one. So 4 big injuries.
So there's actually 4. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that tackle did a reasonable job. You didn't notice him and with an O lineman, like you say, that's a positive thing. I agree. It's awful tough in this. The only, I don't know about silver lining or whatever. The only thing that at least with the players that they lost, it wasn't because somebody was doing something stupid and there was a dirty hit or anything. That was all run of the football play. Although Alfred pulling up lame non-contact, hopefully that's not long-term, because that looked a little scary.
Those are the worst ones, right? Non-contact injuries, because you just don't know what happened and why and how do you fix it. So it could be a little bit. I'm afraid it's going to be a lingering kind of muscle injury type of thing.
Yeah, I think he's already been ruled out for this week, but I saw that. I saw that, and it was the 6th play from scrimmage in the game, and that my initial thought was really selfish because I had him on my fantasy team. Oh no, I can't afford to give up those points. And then once the game is over, you can look at your opponent and see who they had, and Sheldon had him as well. So I went, okay then. But you're right. I hope he's back soon. He's just those players are all too good to have out, and that's going to make it really tough tougher for Calgary. But there were some other things with it. The start of the game, the audio that TSN had out there, I thought we were back in the preseason. I don't think it was just my feed that it was choppy and it just wasn't there right at the start and everything.
Yeah, I actually noticed even the visuals were a little choppy this weekend. I thought maybe it was just my connection, but it was a little fuzzy looking for a little while. Then it would clear up and then it would leave again. So, yeah.
So it's probably something within the equipment there, but there was that. I thought Montreal was definitely doing whatever they could to win, leaving Evans in and throwing that flea flicker after it didn't work earlier. That was a pushy kind of play. And then the other thing is, I agree with everything you said about the downfalls, but I still think Calgary could have won this game. I put this down to a basically coaching error. For some reason, in the second quarter there, Montreal backed off their blitz a bit. They they weren't coming so heavy at the line, and something in the coverage seemed to be confusing VA, and he went for a stretch of about 10 minutes there, I think 3 or 4 series, where he just did not look good. And they did not run Mills once during that. They just didn't adapt. They kept throwing him up there, and I think that would have changed how things ended towards the half. And then again, at the end of the game, they get the ball back. There's 1:04 left, and I think they got it on the 30 or something. I can't remember, but there was enough time still. You could have sprinkled in a couple of runs to Mills just to keep that pass rush down and give your backup who's in there cold a bit of a chance. But no, they put it all on Walker. And I'm not the coach. They get paid a lot more than I do, and they know a lot more about football, but that seemed to me like that was a bit of an error.
Yeah, I thought the adjustment, one of my notes was the adjustment at halftime was going back to Mills because they came out of into the third quarter, and he just ran like crazy and scored another touchdown. And I was like, okay, that's the adjustment, and they made it, and they're back. And then all of a sudden, they just went away from him again. It was kind of odd.
Yeah, very strange. Let's see. Oh, I did want to mention Roberts from the Calgary secondary, just because he put a big hit on Sneed along the sideline there. And I know he didn't wrap up, and I always come bitch about them not wrapping up, but that was an impressive hit. That would get a receiver's attention.
It was a pretty good game. It was kind of what we expected. Two pretty good teams battling it out, and it was what it was. I wasn't that upset with it.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Maltos went 5 for 5, and he had the 57-yard field goal to win the game, which is an Alouettes franchise record. And if you saw that field goal, there was room. He probably could have hit it from 65. Yeah. So everyone can just do their flex. He's a fun personality in the league.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
As I said to someone that was asking me, well, we had 4 starters out over the course of the game, 4 guys, main starting players injured, including your starting quarterback. And we had 135 yards in penalties, and we lost by 2.
Yep.
And they kicked 5 field goals. So when you're kicking 5 field goals and a 57-yarder to win it, it means that they weren't moving the ball that well. We lost, but it wasn't like just a horrible game. So there's some good things to take away from it still.
Oh, definitely, yeah. The Stampeders didn't give that game away. In the circumstances they were in, they could have lost by a lot more. It was too much for them to overcome, and those circumstances will change within a week or two. So I don't think it's anything to be breaking Calgary down for or busting them over it. And I'm glad you mentioned the Maltos thing, because one of the things that I noticed is when he kicks the field goals, he always does the first a point up to God, thank you, and then his flex. Look what I did. In that one, God didn't get the point. I thought it was him saying sort of, thank you for everything you did to get me here. But that was me.
Maybe the first one's just like an overall coverage for any future kicks in the game.
Could be. I think he's fully justified in taking full credit for that because it was a long one, and it was just straight down the middle.
Yeah. But it's fun. It's fun to have fun. Like Dean Faithful last year with his teacup celebration. And now Maltos doing his flexing. It's fun to have fun.
Well, I never would have thought Maltos would make that kick until that game. And the first kickoff of the game, I think it was the first kickoff of the game, he put a touchback into the end zone. I thought, man, I didn't know he had a leg anything like that. So once they called on him to make it, I thought, okay, he can probably get the distance. Is he accurate? And yeah, it couldn't have been any more straight down the pipe. I feel good for him. He seems like a feel-good story to me. I don't know anything about him, but he seems like a feel-good story.
Practice rosters for years with the Alouettes and with the Red Blacks. So it's nice to see him just rising to the top. He's one of the top kickers in the league this year.
All right. Last thing, and then if you guys got anything else?
No.
Okay. No. So the last thing I'll say, it was very pleasant to see in this game that there was an illegal procedure, and it was clear enough that they just called it. We didn't have to wait the 15, 20 seconds for the replay booth to tell them what it is. I absolutely hate that aspect of the game. I mean, call it how they're handling that. Call it what you see. If it's that close that you just can't tell, call by what you see, and then, but that's my old man shouting at clouds personality coming across. So let's jump to game 2, which was, not a pretty affair. Edmonton 18 at Saskatchewan 21. And I said on it going in, I hope this is not a trap game. And I think in the end, I think it kind of was, but they were just good enough to overcome that. The Riders looked unfocused and uninspired for most of the game, most of the team. But like you said, 8 sacks. Carney got 2, Johnson got 2, Ray got 2, and then the linebackers, A.J. Allen and Rivas. And they were just, that looked very, very impressive to me. And that probably is what saved them the game. But they were definitely, I think they were playing down to the team that they were up against. And the Riders have a history of doing that. But the other thing that bothers me about the Riders is when they get into the second half with a lead like that, and this has not been just this game, they become very predictable. They run AJ, and because the other teams were waiting for it, and they don't have the line at this point, especially with the injuries they've had. They don't have the line to run him and consistently get 5 yards. So they run him for 2, and then that puts Harris in something longer, and he's not taking a chance on throwing anything that's not a wide open receiver. So he misses people. They go 2 and out. And they do that over and over again. They really have to figure out a way how to run that time-eating offense, but not be so predictable. To me, it's, if you're going to go 2 and out anyway, do some of the safer throws on first down. If you end up at 2nd and 8, when they're now looking for you to pass, run a draw. Get something. I think they really need to do that. And I'll turn it over to you guys, but I'll say for now a couple other things. One, this is where I was talking about the roughing the passer, and I'm not complaining about it. It was a hit to the helmet, so it should be called. But there was a play in there where Trayvon Campbell came running over and Fajardo slid, and as he was going down, Trayvon tried to get above him and ended up hitting his helmet with Trayvon's butt. His right butt cheek hit the helmet, and because it was a helmet contact, that was roughing the passer. And again, by the rule it's there, I don't complain about it, but that's where you look at that compared to the Drew Brown hit, and it just seems there's inequity here somewhere.
Well, you either call everything or you don't call anything, right? Yeah.
And I do have more, but the last thing I'll mention before turning it over to you guys is the more I listen to Paul LaPolice as a color commentator, the more I appreciate what he brings to the game. And I thought there was the perfect example of this, because I do, as I've said before, I usually re-listen to the game on the Riders radio afterwards, see if they point out anything that I've missed. There was a situation where Robicelli tried to make a cut and slipped and went down. Right. Your standard color guy, Luke Mullender on there, said what everybody says, oh, the turf monster got him. Whereas Paul LaPolice says, yeah, his problem there is he's not getting his base wide enough. When you get your feet too tight in a cut like that, you're leaving yourself open to have the balance go over. So, just a level above of what he's helping us see. That's me droning enough. What else? What do you guys got?
I said it on Blue Sky. I'll say it here. Bad teams take bad penalties at bad times. And that sums up Edmonton. Every time they looked like something was going to go right, they just did something dumb and took themselves back out of the game. And that's what bad teams do, and that's how they looked the other night. And they just continue to look like it. They just look like they're still in disarray. And it's 8 games in, and no one thought they'd be in this kind of situation 8 games in, or 8 weeks in at least. Yeah. They're running out of time, and I don't know how they get back in it. I think they're already pretty much done. I can't see them the other teams are getting too far away.
I don't know if there's a team that's been mismanaged so poorly in the last little while. I joked that this might be major league based. I was like, are they secretly trying to move the team, taking it on purpose to move it? And it's going to be up to the players to try and say, I said that Ed Hervey should walk home from that game. The OC should walk home from that game. That O-line it's not their fault. All right, let me show you some stats here. Leak, 2 carries for 5 yards. Rankin, 3 carries for 0 yards. for rushing. Rankin had some passing yards, but that was their rushing. Cody had 4 carries for 20 yards. He was their top rusher. You can't win a game doing that. You'll never win a game doing that. I just don't understand. And then neither team looked like they wanted to win. I wanted to turn it off. If we weren't doing this podcast, I wouldn't have watched this game. I would have turned it off because neither team wanted to win.
That's exactly what I said too. Yeah, this is the price of doing a podcast is we're watching this game.
Yeah. I think we commiserated together.
Exactly. And it does happen. I mean, again, being that I share my head with the other fellow, I would have watched till the end because it was the Riders, but no, not great. And the thing is that there was so many mistakes that they were making, or players that just had bad games. They had Noah Zurian on the offensive line, and I understand he's like their 7th or 8th offensive lineman in the count, and they're all hurt, but he was not sinking his hips at all. He was way too high and getting bull rushed back straight into Harris at least the first half anyway. And then you had Fields out there who plays the halfback opposite of Milligan. He usually is a damn good halfback. He had a terrible game. He was missing angles. He was missing tackles. They had I think like a 50-yard return early on in the game that got called back because of a holding penalty and took it all back. And the fumbles from Dre McRae, one was completely his fault, and they are so lucky that didn't get turned over deep in their end zone. The second one didn't bother me as much because he was charging in to get a no yards play. So you've got sort of that protection there. But still, that's going to make it exciting this weekend if he's handling it that way again.
But he looked so great in the preseason. Remember, we were all raving about him in the preseason when Alfred wasn't playing? So, it was just a bad game overall, and that's what it was.
I think, anyway, you can see the difference between him and Alfred real quick once you get them into the real season, and that's McRae is a young guy. He's got some good moves, but what he's going to do is he's probably going to get you consistently between 10 and 25 yards on a punt return. He takes it, doesn't mess around, looks where he can go and gets what he can and is slippery enough to break a couple of tackles. Whereas Alfred, you'll get more of the 5 and 7 yard punt returns because he is patient and he's looking for that hole to open up. And you get the touchdown returns that I don't think you'll see from McRae until he gets a little more experience in his career. Again, that's my opinion anyway.
The only other thing I'll say is that both MJ and I were laughing again on Blue Sky back at almost the exact same time. I think you typed just as I thought, but my fingers weren't fast enough. Laugh out loud if Edmonton comes back to win this game. When there was 3 minutes left and they were down only 4, and we're like, they're going to manage to come. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Terrible my notes. What is happening?
Like it would have just been like unbelievable, right? Like I would have liked that outcome, but nonetheless, yeah.
See, me not so much, but I've been a Riders fan for so long, I'm immune to that sort of stuff now. It's either going to happen or not. And it's such a traditional friggin' Riders thing. Yeah, we'll take our foot off the gas somehow and coast and let them get close and close. And then at the end, when it's really close, well, now we'll just shut them down. 2 sacks, you're done. Anyway, we've talked a lot about a game that wasn't a good game from either side. And I understand that Killam said after the game that Cody's starting next week. I think I'm going to get a majority of my fantasy players off the Tiger Cats next week. So let's go on to, the next one was the Calgary game that ended up being played between Winnipeg and Toronto. Another one that started in a flash flood. Winnipeg went out to Toronto and lost 17-31. You at the game, JT?
I was.
You said
why don't you tell us about it then?
It was, as I said, as I posted, it was pouring rain on the field and we were completely dry. It was a beautiful night in the stands. Beautiful night in the stands and just pouring rain on the field. Weird. But I basically came home and wrote down 5 things. Toronto wins, Winnipeg loses. Arbuckle good, Zach not. Coxie was great. And what was the last? And what was the last one? Oh, and it was pouring rain. That was the game. Basically, that was the game. Everything else was minutiae.
Yeah, and that kind of covers mostly what I've got written down here, too. about the only other thing that... Oh, so go ahead.
Well, go ahead. You say your thing, and we'll see if it's the same as my thing. That was my one add-on.
Well, yeah, you might have, because GT won't know about this because he was at the game and this was on TV. But there was a point where McManus, I can't remember if it was a sack or a tackle for a loss or whatever, and he did a little dinosaur celebration for it. They showed on TV that was because his son asked him to, and they showed the video of the son doing it. That's his son's celebration. So, I love that. I thought that was very, very, very good. But yeah, otherwise just that and not much more to say other than the Argos somehow handled the rain a lot better than the Bombers did.
And I was surprised. I think I also posted that I was very surprised at the amount of passing and some of the catches made, considering how wet the field was and stuff. It was pretty impressive in some ways.
Oh yeah, there were times when Arbuckle was going through that Winnipeg defense like a hot knife through.
I expected a lot of running, and I expected that field to be actually torn up a lot more than it was because it's partly grass. Yeah. And they were talking about people's cleats and how long their cleats were and who was using cleats and what cleats. And it just reminds me of like back in Edmonton when they had that grass field and teams would come in and not know what cleats to wear. And so I don't want to give the Bombers credit for anything, but it might have been anyway, field issue, home field advantage.
Yeah, slippage was a big point.
I was actually where we were sitting but like 3/4 into the game, I turned to my brother-in-law, who I go to the games with, and said, the field's standing up amazingly well, considering how wet it was. And now it might have been way worse down at the field, but from where we sat up, it wasn't torn up that much at all, other than a few spots. And but that field is, if no one knows, is outstanding. And they have a complete field growing, the entire field growing over at the University of Guelph that they can just transport, take the one out. It's almost like artificial. You just take the one out and put a whole new field in, a whole new field of turf in almost instantaneously when it gets torn up, so that they can play the next day on it if there's a soccer game or anything back to back. It's really quite incredible technology.
They said on the broadcast that they're tearing that turf out, and this is probably one of the last games on that turf. But they were tearing it out for World Cup. Then
they'll be putting down new turf. They probably upgraded even more. Then it's probably even better. I know they spent a ton of dough on it when they first moved in there, and the soccer nerds were freaking out. But it's never been an issue so far. It is amazing technology, because back in the day that would have just been just a mess. The fact that they were able to keep it that good was pretty impressive.
Like I said, it was slippery, but it was there for both teams, and the Argos did seem to have their footwear better. They were having less of the slipping. The other thing on it was that Winnipeg already had shown out, and they had this player Chase in who didn't look great anyway, and they put him in to return a punt in the very last part of the game, and he got injured, it looks like badly. So I'm curious to see who the next man up is. I think they still got Dylan Mitchell on the... Is it Dylan? I think whichever. The Mitchell from Edmonton. Yeah, I think he's still on the practice roster. But if he's on the practice roster rather than the field, I wonder what that tells you too. Okay, well, that's kind of beating that good.
I just wanted to... No, sorry, I just have one point. It's a classic Argo bounce story. I thought for sure this would be the interception of the weekend when McManus, the ball bounced off of his helmet to create a turnover. I was like, is there anything more classic of an Argo bounce than the ball bouncing off of an Argo's helmet into Argo hands? But then the Hamilton BC game happened.
Yes. Hamilton 37 at BC 33. You going to lead us down the path on this, MJ?
There are 2 times a year where my husband and I are mortal enemies. We are not friends. And it is when the Ticats and the Lions play. At the beginning of the game, we say, good game, I love you. We are not friends till this is over.
Yeah.
He had his Rourke shirt on. He thought for sure that Rourke... And you know what? It was a back and forth game. It was close, and it came down to the final drive. This game is CFL football. I love it. And then, guys, I have a question for you. Did you know that Butler used to play for the Ticats and that his mom was at the game?
No. You'd think that someone on the broadcast would have mentioned that.
Shades of Rod Black.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Luke Tasker. You know his shades of Rod Black and Luke Tasker. I know.
I'll say right here, I think that's kind of disrespectful to these players when the guys start saying things like that, because they're professionals. Yeah, they may be more interested in playing a former team, but they wouldn't have got where they are if they're not bringing everything they've got to every game out there. So I don't buy into that whole narrative, but some people apparently do.
Well, it looked like he did because he was running hard. There's no doubt about it. He was running hard.
Yeah. Yes, but he's also run very well against other teams that he's never played for. So
he certainly has.
Maybe it's because his mom was there.
Anyway, go ahead.
I think it's his mom was there.
Oh, that maybe tells me more. Yeah.
So this game, my note is best interception ever. We've all seen it, but when they slow-moed it, I didn't notice it, but he was over top of O'Leary Orange.
Oh, yeah.
He's like over top of him. And then,
and then one-handed it and tuck and rolled and never even used the other hand to balance with. It was incredible.
Athleticism. And so that was two parts. That was football smarts. Like that was using your brain and just pure athleticism. The deadliest combo.
Absolutely.
Yep, I agree. And unfortunately, it was probably the best play we'll see all year. And the old coach in me still found something to nitpick about. And that was the fact that he got that thing. The Bombers were getting the ball back at their 30 with, I think, what was it, under a minute left there. And he ran around in the end zone and took an extra 8 to 12 seconds off the clock. The Lions had it in there. I know if wishes and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. But if he had done that, if he'd given them that extra 12 seconds, they were close enough to kick the field goal. They could have taken a shot into the end zone. And who knows, maybe got 7 instead of 3.
You can't just pin this on one guy, though. That BC defense.
Oh, no, I don't pin it on him.
Yeah, but, they covered Kenny really well, but they left Keandre Smith wide open all game. 14 receptions, his best game in the CFL.
Yeah.
And then
that was a horrible defense on that last drive. And I mean, I understand the philosophy for 59 minutes. Yeah. But when there's a minute left and it's Bo Levi Mitchell, one of the most accurate passers in the league, who's been picking you apart for the entire game, you have to not allow him to get, and you're only, and even a field goal would have tied the game. Yep. You cannot allow that kind of, you got to go man to man and hope that it works. You can't just allow him to march down the field. They were getting a field goal, if nothing else, to tie the game, the way that they played that. That was just horrible defense.
The Ticat enemy thought there was 3 scenarios that were going to happen. One, we would tie the game with Yo's money. B, we would get a fumble. Or C, Tim White would have it go through his hands in the end zone, a turnover on downs. I thought for sure, because the Ticats have had issues closing out games, I thought for sure we were at least going to overtime. And I was, to my surprise, ice in the veins, they pulled it off. So this gives me a lot of hope for this season, because this is not Ticats of old. They wouldn't have been able to pull that off in seasons past.
Yes, and I want to clarify, I'm not criticizing Carter on that interception. He had just done a mind-blowing play, and I'm sure his heart was racing, and there's lots to think about it.
Yeah.
So him taking the extra time is fully understandable. But from a coaching perspective, that's kind of what you do. You celebrate and say, really great, now what can we learn better? I had in my notes, Lawler had, I think 3 catches for 20-some yards or something. But even at that, he has a huge impact on the game.
Absolutely.
And basically, we've seen now, Toronto said, one guy can cover Kenny, and that didn't work. BC said, well, everybody will cover Kenny, and that didn't work. So it's kind of challenging as a defensive coordinator to get the right coverage in there. But their goal was to shut him down, worked. But you have to be able to adjust somehow when you're just getting destroyed like that.
Yeah. Smith shouldn't be getting that many passes to him.
Yeah. The thing that I wanted to mention was, and I said I would bring this up earlier, so before I forget, there was a play where there was the long pass to Hatcher, and that was a great catch, and he almost made it all the way to the end zone, except the official was in the way, and he had to slow down, and he had to move around the official. It wasn't the official's fault. He just couldn't get out of the way. Yeah. But Hatcher had to move around him, and that slowed him down just enough for Hamilton to catch him. Otherwise, he was going into the end zone, I'm sure of it. And it just reminded me of, I don't know if you probably remember this, old man, and MJ, you may not have seen it, but Edmonton back in the day had what I called the official screen, where they would run a slant, the official slant, and they would run their inside receiver on a slant right in front of the official, the midfield official. So the defensive back couldn't get to the receiver because the official was in the way. And it was a well-designed, and they ran it regularly. And it used to make me nuts because it was like having an extra blocker out there for you. I hadn't seen it in a long time, and it just reminded me of that. But it was just like, poor guys. If that guy hadn't have been there, I'm sure Hatcher would have scored on that play.
Yeah, it's been a long time, but I remember sort of what you're talking about. I remember seeing, I don't know if I would have remembered it being Edmonton, but I remembered seeing people run that play. And it is kind of brilliant because the officials are, as far as game contact and stuff like that goes, you're not supposed to contact them, but they are officially part of the playing field. So yep. You are responsible for moving around them, not them around you. Anything else?
Bo Levi Mitchell's interview after the game, he credited Scott Mitchell with how well he's been playing. It's part of the reason. Oh my goodness. I'm like, up is down, black is white. What is happening? There's been a huge turnaround in the off season.
Well, or this season. It's amazing how winning makes everybody friends.
Yeah.
It goes much better.
That team just looks like they're having fun. Like Kat Statonis and Bo Levi are roommates on the road, and they're always jumping into each other's interviews, and they always post each other's Instagram stories, and they're always talking back and forth and tagging each other. They look like they're having the best time. And to me, this is when football is great, is when you're having fun and you're playing well. Because like having a team that does well, yes, it's fun, but I think my level of enjoyment goes up when there's things like this happening, and when the players are having a good time as well and joking around, but playing really well. This is just my elite football enjoyment.
Yeah,
I'm curious though, and this is a legitimate question. I don't mean to whatever, but I'm just curious how much of this is smoke and mirrors. Is Hamilton really this good? Or are they just winning almost, their games have been I'm not sure how to phrase it, because they're legitimately winning and they're legitimately coming back, but it just has this feel of being it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. They really haven't done. I don't know if I can say that it's consistent or that I can feel like they are there yet. I'm just not sure about them yet. And they're legitimately 5 and whatever, and there's first place and so on. I get all of that, but I'm still not confident that they can hold it, that they're really that good. I don't know. Am I wrong? I can't tell.
I can't tell for sure either. I mean, they got I think it was the 3 Down Nation put them at the top of the power rankings. And I said, maybe they're playing well and they should be in the top 2 or 3, but they had 2 wins over Ottawa and a win over Toronto. And who else did they have before BC? I forget, but basically they were over Montreal with the backup in, but that is, Montreal's a good team. So there is but the ones on from there were, not great teams. And BC is struggling this year until they play one of the other teams that's up there at the top with them.
Who's at the top with
even
them?
Winnipeg's looking shaky.
Who's at the top with them? We thought Winnipeg was. Because, who?
Right now, I would say that it's almost like a coin toss about who's at the top. There could be 4 teams. I think there could be 4 teams that you could say are at the top based on what we've seen, at least 3, because you've got Calgary, you've got Saskatchewan, you've definitely got Hamilton, you've got Montreal. I still think even with MBT in there, Montreal's up to that level. And I think right at this point in time, maybe a little bit of question in Montreal, but those other three, from what we've seen, I don't know if one is better than the other or not. Calgary beat up Saskatchewan at home pretty good. Then Montreal went in and seemed to be able to move against that defense. Will that teach anybody anything? So that's it, basically. To me, that's it. There's 2 in the East and 2 in the West that should be considered.
Yeah, I'm exactly where you are. There are 4 teams, and I'm also with you, MJ. That who do they have to be? I'm not saying that they're not. I just can't figure them out yet. I can say the same thing about Calgary is like, of the 2 biggest surprises, those are the 2 biggest surprises. And are they versus Saskatchewan and Montreal, who you expected to be as good as they are and who seem to play like they are, and they're not smoke and mirrors. They're just solid football teams that are winning versus Calgary and Hamilton are both like, how is it a mirage or are they actually that good? I think the same thing could be said about both of those teams. They're both winning, but are we sure about them?
At the beginning, preseason, I would not have picked Calgary. I didn't pick Calgary or Hamilton to be good. I thought it would be Winnipeg, who is not playing well at all. Saskatchewan did not play well against arguably the worst team in the league. Barely beat them. Montreal, who knows? Maybe they've kind of, now that McLeod, Bethel, Thompson, I think Alexander being on the 6-game list helps them just to be like, okay, here we are. Let's game plan for McLeod Bethel now. We're not trying to slot things around. So I think they have a well enough team around them that they can carry him. Arbuckle looked good. They looked pretty good. So I don't know. I don't understand this season. Rourke looked pretty good on last night. It was a back and forth. It looked like my husband and I were like, this could be Grey Cup. Maybe. Who knows? I don't know. I don't even know how to slot anyone down. I feel sorry for people doing power rankings because it's just every week seems to just be a mishmash.
Exactly. And the thing is, aside from those 4 at the top, you got 2 that could be the coin flip on the bottom. And then the other 3 teams, BC, Winnipeg, and Toronto, we just don't know because they're different teams week to week to week. It's hard to tell. And I don't take away from Hamilton because you could say the same thing about just about any team in the league. Really, who have the Riders beat that have been great? They lost to Calgary, the only other top team they've come up against. It is so hard to guess. Pick'em is going to get much, much tougher.
I will say Bo seems very motivated.
Okay, I just want to point out one yes, he does. I just want to go one last thing to point out, though, and this maybe says something about that whole argument. That last drive where they came down and scored the touchdown and the BC defense gave it to them, they had them off the field twice and took a penalty.
Yeah.
They took an offside on 2nd and under 5. And then they took an illegal contact, and that when it was 3rd down and they were off. And then at the end, even though it wouldn't have gotten them off the field, they took a pass interference right down at the goal line. So how much of that win is on Hamilton and how much is, their good play and how much is on BC? And especially that last touchdown, you want to take all the drama out of a game. Okay, we have to get a touchdown on this play. We'll leave that guy uncovered completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
All he has to do is run ahead 5 yards. I mean, it's a good thing Bo has got all of the experience he does because a rookie QB would be, oh my God, get the snap here. Okay, that's it. So now we have to look ahead to next week. Last week, the show and all of us went 2-2. So hopefully we'll get a bit better this week. Game 1, Thursday night, Calgary at Ottawa. Who wants to go first?
2 players are going to win this game for Calgary. It's going to be Dedrick Mills and Philpott. Those are the 2 players. If they play tremendously, they will win. Calgary will win the game. If neither of those players are the number 1 and number 2 star type of things, Calgary's not going to win this game. That's how I view it because they're going to have, because they're going to have to run the ball, especially if Walker's the quarterback. If Vernon Adams is the quarterback, it's Calgary's game as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So I'm assuming Walker's the quarterback. So they're going to have to run the ball, and they're going to have to establish that run, and Ottawa's going to know it. So that means they're really going to have to, Mills is going to have a really great game as a running back, not just, break a bunch. Then Philpott is the guy. This is the game that Reggie Begelton used to win you when it was in those middle 10 yards over the middle slant passes. Back in the day, it was McDaniels that used to win you these kind of games, right? And it's going to have to be Philpott, because you're not going to be able to toss it down the field. He's not Vernon Adams. He's not going to run around and all of a sudden find Dominic Grimes or find Alfred or find all those other tall, Reese Jones or whatever, all those tall guys running down the field. He's going to go short and he's going to go intermediate, and that's going to be Philpott. And if they can get those two guys going, I think Calgary has a chance to win the game. Otherwise, Drew Brown's back, and he's been good whenever he's been back. And I think that's the difference. Okay. So having said all that, I pick an Ottawa.
Okay. Do you want to go, MJ, or should I?
I'll go. Drew is back. I think Eugene Lewis is motivated because he's not. I think the two of them are motivated. VAs, they said he's questionable. I hope they wouldn't play him. And just for longevity's sake, I'm going to say Ottawa.
Okay. And I struggle with this one. I really do, because I can't believe that. Well, if at the start of the season you told me I was going to say this, I would have been probably laughed in your face. But that Calgary defense may be good enough to win no matter who's in at quarterback against a team like Ottawa. Now, if Brown gets his 400 yards or something, maybe they get a bunch of field goals, and that might be enough. But I'm kind of trying to talk myself one way or the other here, because I just don't know. You both have a bunch more wins, or at least 3 or 4 more wins in Pick'em than I do. So I'm going to go Calgary and see if I can pick up some ground on you. Then we go to Toronto at Winnipeg on the Friday night.
Do we know if Zach is playing?
I've heard nothing, and there's no Winnipeg. I don't know how they get away with this. Everybody else has an injury report from their first day of practice. Winnipeg's got nothing up there. When I go to look at my fantasy stuff, and if they're the first game of the weekend, everybody else has their depth charts up and readable by the games on Thursday. They have it up a day ahead on Wednesday. Winnipeg seems like almost game time before you see anything. And I just don't get how they do that and how the league lets them get away with it, because there's supposed to be transparency now. So we don't know.
So if Zach, you know what, based on the way he's been playing, I don't think it matters. I'm going Toronto.
I'm going to pick Toronto.
Okay. And yeah, because Winnipeg at home scared me. And I said before, I've learned with Winnipeg over this 5-year run, you don't count them out until the corpse is decapitated, salted, and burned. But they just haven't looked good.
No.
And if Toronto can do that, I mean, part of it was the rain that helped Toronto. Oh, I was going to ask during the game, GT, and I forgot, or during our recap, and I forgot. It looked on TV like the rain sort of backed off around halftime, and it got much less. Was that true, or was it still coming down all game?
It got less by the fourth quarter, but then it came in a little bit of spurts after that. But it was less. It was primarily from the beginning of the game through about midway through the third.
Okay, so I can't believe I'm saying this, but yeah, Toronto. I'm going with you guys.
I know.
Which takes us on to Hamilton at Edmonton.
Maybe Bo's going to get 500
This is an easy one, so I'll go first. I'm definitely taking Hamilton, and I actually may enjoy this game more than the one last night, because I may have to go back and rewatch that game. Everyone's telling me what a great game it was. My mindset going into that was dictated totally by the fantasy stuff. I'd had all my players in. I had all my points. Sheldon was about 15 points behind me, and I knew from what he said on the show on Thursday that he had Lawler. So that entire game, when the Hamilton offense was on the field, my entire focus was, where's Lawler? Where's Lawler? Okay, what's going to happen? So hopefully I won't be in that situation and can just enjoy it next week. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Hamilton is a double digits favor in the gambling, and they may put it up the way Regina couldn't. So waiting for you two on. Do I have to ask even?
No.
Vulcan mirrors continue.
Yeah.
Maybe Bo will get 500 yards passing this game.
And then we get to maybe he will. Who knows? Things are working so well, he might even get a long pass to Tim White in.
Well, I don't know.
Too much to ask? Maybe. Okay, so then the last game, which I've been saying these are all tough to call. Well, let's end up with an easy one. Yeah, Saskatchewan at Montreal. That's... Oh my God, I have no idea. I'll go on first on this. I will pick Saskatchewan because when it's this close, the other man in my head insists that we favor them, and as well on the fact that at least while their injury report is bad, and by the time we get to the having to make the pick'em decisions for my personal ones, I may change this because really Saskatchewan looks like a walking wounded in the first day of practice. There's, I think, 9 or 10 did not participate. But if they get anywhere near a reasonable team in there, they've got their starting quarterback. MBT is still good as he showed, but I don't know that he's good enough to beat them. So I'm going to take the Riders. Next.
I'll go Montreal.
I'm on the Maltose train, Montreal.
Yes. Okay. So Montreal for both of you, and I've got Saskatchewan. So you may really open up your lead over me in the pick'em, or I might get to close some ground.
I will say my sister helped us 2 weeks in a row with our picks. So it might just be her. That's the magic touch.
It could be. Yeah. Maybe we'll have to get her on standby where, just before we have to make the picks, I can take a sudden hamstring injury and she has to come in for me. Convenient. All righty. It's been another fun week, folks. I really do appreciate these talks with you. It's one of the highlights of my week. So time to close up. And as usual, any other thoughts to put in for the week? And do you want to mention your social media?
Well, I'm on my way to the nation's capital to watch the Stampeders Ottawa game. So that'll be fun. And you can find me whenever and wherever I post, which is at GT Barnum at Blue Sky, and go from there.
Hey. Oh, and we seem to have lost MJ. Well, I will tell you that you can reach MJ on Blue Sky at Sports and Plants, and if she had any thoughts, I think she's pretty much made them clear what she's looking forward to this weekend. And she can be there to see it. So that's about it. Thanks for checking in. Please remember, drop a like. It helps us out a whole bunch. Subscribe, leave a comment, all those things. The stuff that the algorithm notices and helps get the name out there to others. We're slowly but surely growing this, and we really appreciate it. So thank you for that. Hope it's a great weekend of CFL football. These games, it's hard to tell. There could be duds or there could be just a blockbuster weekend. That's what I'm looking for. So for GT and MJ, wherever she's gone, this is Old Man saying until next week, get the hell off my yard.